There is a moment I have never forgotten, and I have carried it with me for more years than I care to count. I was sitting at the kitchen table of a woman I trusted completely, someone I had called my closest friend for the better part of 2 decades. It was a rainy afternoon. I had a cup of tea going cold in my hands, and I was telling her things, real things, true things about my marriage, about the money troubles we had been quietly drowning in, about a mistake from my past that I had never shared with another living soul. I told her because I was tired of carrying it alone. I told her because I thought that was what friendship was for. I walked out of her house that afternoon feeling lighter than I had in years. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was that I had just handed her the most vulnerable parts of myself, and that one day, in a moment I could never have predicted, she would use every single one of them. Not out of cruelty exactly, but out of something just as damaging: carelessness, her own pain, her own fear. And suddenly the things I had shared in that quiet kitchen were no longer mine. They were out in the world, changed just slightly in the telling, but unmistakably mine. My name is Jane, and I am 80-year-old right now. After 60, I have learned, truly learned, in the way you only learn things that have cost you something, that there are certain things you should never share with anyone. Not because people are all bad, not because the world is cold, but because some pieces of yourself are too precious, too private, too easily mishandled to be offered freely. Maybe you're going through a hard time right now, and that's exactly why you're here, looking for someone to tell you it's going to be all right. If you are, tell me in the comments. I read every single one. Your story might help someone else, and I'll make a video about it. We grow stronger by guiding each other, not judging each other. But first, let me tell you what I wish someone had told me before I gave away too much of myself to the wrong people. The first thing you should never share, and I say this with the full weight of everything I have lived, is your weaknesses and your deepest regrets. I know how it happens. Lord, I know exactly how it happens because I have done it more times than I should admit. There is a particular kind of loneliness that settles in as the years pass, a longing to be truly known by someone, to let down the careful face you wear and just be seen fully without pretending. And in that longing, we reach for connection. We think that if we show someone where we have fallen, where we have failed, where the cracks run deepest, they will love us more honestly. We think vulnerability is a bridge, and sometimes it is, but only sometimes and only with certain people. And most of the time, we cannot tell the difference until it is far too late. Here is what I have come to understand after all these years sitting with it. Most people are not equipped to hold your worst moments without filing them away somewhere. The human mind remembers the dramatic, the surprising, the painful. It clings to those things with a kind of terrible loyalty. Your friend may forget the birthday she missed or the afternoon she canceled on you, but she will remember every word of that evening you told her about your lowest point. She will keep it tucked away, perhaps without even meaning to. And one day, maybe during an argument, maybe just in a quiet look across a room, you will feel it come back to you and you will recognize it as something that was once yours. I had a neighbor for many years, a gentle woman who I thought I knew well. One summer evening, I told her about something I had done in my younger years, a decision I had made that I was deeply ashamed of, that I had spent decades making peace with. I told her because the evening was warm and the conversation was easy, and it felt like one of those rare moments when two people are truly present with each other. She listened beautifully. She was warm and kind and said all the right things. But 5 years later, when a small disagreement arose between us over something entirely unrelated and trivial, she reached back into that evening and pulled out what I had told her, not viciously, almost casually, as though she had simply reached into a drawer. And in that moment, I understood that she had been keeping it all along, that it had lived somewhere inside our friendship this whole time without me knowing. You cannot unshare something. That is the plain truth of it. Once the words leave your mouth, they belong to someone else now, to their memory, their interpretation, their keeping. And people, even kind people, even people who love you, will frame you by the hardest things you tell them. They will see you through that lens, whether they intend to or not. So before you open that particular door, ask yourself honestly, do I trust this person not just with my good days, but with the power this knowledge will give them over me? Because that is what you are giving, power. And power, once given, is rarely given back. The second thing you must guard carefully is your financial life, your struggles, and your successes equally. This took me a long time to understand because I was raised to believe that honesty was always a virtue, that hiding things was somehow shameful, that real friendship meant no secrets. And there is truth in that to a degree, but financial information is a different animal entirely. And I have watched it quietly destroy relationships that I thought were unshakable. When my husband and I went through the worst of our money troubles, and we did go through the worst, truly. There were years when I didn't know how we would manage the next month. I made the mistake of confiding in people I considered family, not strangers, not acquaintances, people I had loved and trusted for years. I thought sharing the burden would lighten it somehow. I thought honesty would bring us closer. What it brought instead was something I hadn't anticipated: pity, followed slowly by a kind of quiet dismissal, not from everyone, but from enough people that I began to notice the pattern. The invitations became fewer, the conversations shifted. There was a new carefulness in how people spoke to me, a gentle condescension that hadn't been there before, as though my difficulty with money had somehow revealed something fundamental about my worth as a person, as though I had become, in their minds, smaller. And then there is the other side of it, which surprised me even more. Years later, when our circumstances had improved considerably, when the hard work and the long years of discipline had finally come to something, I made a different mistake. I shared some of that too, not boastfully, just openly in the way you might share good news with people you love. The change was just as significant, only in a different direction. Suddenly there were requests, suddenly there were hints, expectations, assumptions. Suddenly I was no longer a friend, but a resource, a soft landing place for other people's needs. And the relationships that had survived the lean years became complicated in the comfortable ones because I had let people see too much. Your financial life is yours. The debts, the savings, the inheritance, the unexpected gift, the month you barely scraped by, all of it is yours, and it deserves to stay that way. Share it with the people who need to know it legally or practically. Keep it close everywhere else. The people who love you should love you for what you are, not for what you have or haven't got. The third thing, and I want you to really hear this one, is never share the troubles in your closest relationships. I spent a good portion of my life doing exactly the wrong thing here. When things were hard between me and my husband, I talked. When I was hurt or confused or angry, I reached for the phone. I told my sisters. I told my closest friends. I told whoever was nearby and willing to listen because the pain was real and I needed somewhere to put it. And every single time, I made things harder for myself in ways I didn't understand until years later. Here is the problem with sharing your relationship pain with people who love you. They only ever get your version of the story. They get you hurt, frightened, maybe not entirely fair, speaking from the middle of the wound rather than after it has healed. They don't get the full picture of who your person is. They don't see the tender moments, the private kindnesses, the history and complexity that make a long relationship what it truly is. They get the worst afternoon, the hardest argument, the moment when you were most in pain and least able to be generous. And because they love you, they take your side completely, without reservation, the way people who love you do, which in the moment feels like exactly what you needed. But then the argument passes, as most arguments do. You and your person find your way back to each other. You remember why you built a life together. You forgive, or you come to understand, or you simply move forward the way long term love requires you to. And you want the people around you to move forward too. You want them to see your husband or your partner the way you see him, fully, charitably, with all the context that comes from genuinely knowing someone. But they can't because they don't have that context. They have the story you told them on the worst night, and that story lives in them now, coloring every gathering, every holiday, every casual interaction. They are watching for it, waiting perhaps for confirmation of what you told them. And without meaning to, without even knowing it's happening, they chip away at the very relationship you were trying to protect. I have seen this happen to people I love dearly. I have watched friendships and family relationships quietly poison partnerships that could have survived anything except the interference of too many people knowing too much. Protect the private life you share with someone. It is not the world's business, and the more of it you give away, the harder it becomes to keep it whole. The fourth thing is your deep pain, the wounds that go back a long way, the parts of your history that still carry weight. I want to be tender with this one because I know it comes from a real and legitimate place. There is a particular heaviness to old grief, old shame, old hurt that has never been properly witnessed, and the longing to have someone truly see it, truly see you inside it, not flinch, not look away. That longing is one of the most human things there is. I have felt it. I feel it still some days in the quieter hours. And there are people in this world who can hold that kind of pain carefully. People who have the depth, the steadiness, the genuine love to hear the hardest things and still see you whole afterward. If you have even one such person in your life, you are richer than most. Hold on to them. But here is what I have learned slowly and sometimes painfully. Most people, even people who mean well, even people who try, are not able to hold your deepest wounds without being changed by them in ways that ultimately complicate things between you. They hear the worst of what you have survived. And from that moment on, a part of how they see you is shaped by it. Not all of how they see you, but a part. And that part has a weight to it. I have ended friendships, not bitterly, but with a certain quiet inevitability, because the person I had confided in simply could not stop seeing me through the lens of what I had shared. Every time I achieved something, there was a particular look on their face that said they were measuring it against the low point they knew about. Every time I expressed joy or confidence or strength, there was a flicker of something, surprise perhaps, or a kind of gentle skepticism, that told me they were still holding the version of me I had given them years ago. We grow. That is what we are supposed to do. We survive the things that nearly broke us, and we build something new on the other side, and we deserve to be seen as that new thing, not forever anchored to the worst of what we went through. But the people we told, they anchor us, sometimes without meaning to. They love the person they met in the darkness, and they don't always know how to love the person who walked out of it. Be very thoughtful about who you let into the deep places, not because those places don't deserve to be known, they do, but because you also deserve the freedom to grow past them, and not everyone you trust will be able to grow with you. The fifth thing is your hopes and your dreams, the things you want to do, the places you still want to go, the life you are still building. This one surprised me when I first understood it because it seems like the most innocent kind of sharing. What could be the harm in telling someone what you dream about? What damage could come from letting people see your hope? But I have watched it happen too many times to doubt it now. I have watched women my age, women with real desires and real capability and real life left to live, get quietly talked out of the things that would have made them happiest, not by enemies, by the people who loved them most. A few years ago, a friend of mine decided she wanted to travel alone to a place she had been dreaming about for decades. She was past 70, she had some health considerations, and the trip would not have been easy. But she had been carrying this particular dream for so long that it had become part of who she was, a small, bright flame she had tended carefully through all the hard years. And when she finally told the people around her about it, the response was immediate and overwhelming. What if something goes wrong? What about your health? Is it really wise at your age? What if you need help and there's no one there? Every question came from love. I genuinely believe that. The people asking them were frightened for her, and fear sounds a lot like concern, and concern sounds a lot like wisdom. So she listened. She let the questions in, and she didn't go. She never went. And I watched something go out of her in the years that followed. Some particular quality of aliveness that had lived in the anticipation of that dream. It was gone, and it never came back, and she had given it away simply by telling people before she was already on her way. Here is what I have come to believe. A dream shared too early is a dream at risk, not because the people you tell are wrong to worry, not because their caution is entirely without merit, but because other people's fears are not the right material to build your future on. Their limitations, their anxieties, their own unchased dreams that they have made peace with. All of that comes through when they speak to yours, and it can be enough to stop you if you let it in at the wrong moment. If you have something you want to do, something that still lights up in you when you think about it, something that makes you feel like yourself in the deepest way, guard it for a while. Let it grow strong enough to survive scrutiny before you expose it to the world. Or better yet, begin it quietly and tell people once you are already moving. It is much harder to be talked out of something when your bags are already packed. The sixth thing, and perhaps the one that surprises people most when I say it, is your grudges, your resentments, and the unresolved bitterness you carry towards specific people. I understand the impulse to share these things. When someone has hurt you, truly hurt you, the kind of hurt that doesn't resolve cleanly and leaves a scar that occasionally catches the light, there is an almost irresistible need to have someone else confirm that yes, what happened was wrong. Yes, you have every right to feel what you feel. Yes, the other person was unkind or unfair or worse. We want a witness to our injuries. We want someone to sit with us in the specific room of that particular pain. And sometimes, in appropriate circumstances with the right person, that kind of sharing can be genuinely healing. I don't want to pretend otherwise. But more often, far more often than people acknowledge, sharing your resentments with others creates a cascade of complications that you will spend years untangling. The person you tell will become your ally in that grievance, often more fiercely than you ever intended. They will carry your anger for you, sometimes long after you have released it yourself. They will ask about it at unexpected moments. They will raise it when the person you were angry with comes up in conversation, keeping a wound alive that you have already spent considerable energy closing. And there is another danger, one I have seen play out with a particular quiet devastation. Sometimes the person you confide in will take your grievance directly to its source. They will tell the person you were angry about what you said, sometimes out of genuine misguided loyalty, sometimes out of their own complicated motivations, and suddenly you are no longer dealing with one difficult situation, you are dealing with two. The original wound, and now the new one created by the telling. I spent years carrying a deep resentment towards someone who had wronged me in a way I found genuinely difficult to forgive. I shared it with someone I trusted. I went into great detail. I named the things that had been done and the ways they had affected me. and for a short while, being witnessed in that pain felt like relief. But the ripples from that conversation went further and in more directions than I ever anticipated. Relationships I valued were affected. The original situation became more complicated, not less. And I was left with the strange, unsettling feeling that in sharing my wound, I had somehow made myself less, not more. Your resentments are yours to carry and yours to release. That work, the real work of forgiving or deciding not to forgive or simply choosing to put something down and walk away from it, that is inner work, private work. It cannot be done through other people's opinions of the situation, no matter how sympathetically offered. Now, I want to say something before I leave you because I have spent this whole time telling you what not to do, and I don't want you to walk away thinking I am asking you to become cold or closed or entirely alone with everything that matters to you. I'm not telling you to build walls. I am telling you to build doors with locks and the wisdom to know who deserves a key. The connections worth having are not built on the flood of oversharing. They are built slowly, in the way anything durable is built, through someone showing up when it would have been easier not to, through small kindnesses over long years, through being known in the ordinary moments rather than just the confessional ones. Those are the people who have earned the deeper things. You will know them not right away, but you will know them because they will have already proven themselves before you ever need to test the depth of the water. There are other places to put things in the meantime, a journal that belongs entirely to you, a long walk where you can think without an audience, and yes, communities of people who understand, where your words might reach someone who genuinely needs to hear them, but where no single person holds them over you. I have found more understanding in unexpected places than I ever found in the confidences I handed to the wrong people at the wrong time. Here is what I want to leave you with: the most important things about you, the things that have cost you the most, the dreams that still light up inside you, the wounds you are still healing. They deserve to be protected, not hidden in shame, not buried in silence, protected the way you would protect anything you loved and could not afford to lose. Not everybody deserves to know you. Learning the difference, learning to hold yourself with enough respect to choose carefully who gets access to the most real parts of you, that is not coldness. That is one of the most loving things you will ever do for yourself. I learned it late, at a cost I am still occasionally paying. I hope you learn it now, while there is still time to spare yourself some of what I have been through. Some things you will never get back once they are out of your hands. Please remember that.